And now I'd like to introduce Robert Sakula, who I know quite well, and I know that he has some quite strange ideas, so let's hear them.
Right, I'm going to attempt to be heard. Okay, I'm going to talk about materials and about, or say a little bit about truth to materials. And I'm going to start with a very famous building by a famous architect, Mies van der Rohe's Seagram building in New York. And I mean, isn't it really boring? It's all about rhythm, repetition, smooth machine surfaces, and eternity. And here's another famous building, the Guarantee Building by Louis Sullivan. Isn't it brilliant? It does all the things that Mies doesn't seem to know how to do. It's about surface, rhythm, repetition, truth to materials, but what it seems able to do is to acknowledge time and humanity, weathering and changing light in a way that Mies doesn't. So this is my text for this evening. This is my first boss, Clough Williams-Ellis, and I love the bit about the snow casting upward shadows because it talks about the sense of longevity of what we do and of how time and change is an intrinsic part of the life of buildings. So after so many venerable architects, I'm going to show some of our own work with a little bit of trepidation. These are some windows, we call them amoeba windows, that we designed a few years ago for a building called the Hot House in Hackney. They're on the facade of the building facing a public park, and they're intended to provide the building with a friendly face onto this very public place. They're functional in that they let in light and air, but their essential purpose is decorative in contrast to the sort of normal, continuous picture window below. And what I really like about them is how they capture the sunlight and bring it inside. So on a sunny day, like in this photo, they throw beams of sunlight across the room, enlivening and dramatizing what is otherwise a very simple studio space. So this next slide, when it comes, is a close-up of the external wall surface of some apartments we built for the Peabody Trust in East London. And what you're seeing are lavender and turquoise reflections and refractions of a silver foil rain screen set behind a layer of translucent profiled fiberglass. And in the voids caused by the profile of the fiberglass, we inserted black and white spiraling wire, old electrical cable, to enhance the spatial depth of the facade and to dramatize the kinetic qualities of the facade when you move along it, so that the whole ambiguous surface slides and shifts and moves as you do, and creates a facade much enjoyed, we're told, by the occupants of these houses and also by their children. And we also aim to enhance the sinuous liquid quality of the facade by taking the fiberglass up above the eaves and letting it dissolve into the sky. Now, in another project, here's some surface layering of glass, lead, and rather ancient slate at the junction of our Birdwing Conservatory. The peeling back of each surface from the next is a sort of frozen metaphor, if you like, of the way our modern intervention has crash-landed into the simple roof form of a listed Georgian house. And it provides a way to enjoy the changing light and weather as it responds to the different qualities of these three surfaces. The glass planes tilt and make tiny changes of pitch, one to another, of a very few degrees, so that the new glass roofs and wall avoid the repetitive slickness of a lot of glass architecture, for example, Mies's Seagram building, and instead help dissolve the relationship between inside and outside, between this house and its garden. And in some lights, the glass dissolves away almost altogether, so it's as much part of the garden as the house. Now, this is something different. This is a path in a Chinese garden, and it uses simple materials, pebbles, stone, grass, plaster, used with great subtlety to demarcate a route, to keep people away from the vulnerable planting, and to heighten the contrast between the path and the wall. And here's another path in another Chinese garden, this one even simpler, and it uses those old architectural tropes of rhythm and repetition with the simplest of clay surfaces, but see how uneven the grid is. It avoids fetishizing the checkerboard grid and lets its maker's essential humanity shine through. And here is a modern variant of the same game where the deliberate roughness and casualness of Rem Koolhaas's dramatic brushed concrete ramp at the Kunsthal in Rotterdam is counterpointed against a ground surface of rather exquisite, smooth, blue-glazed pavers. Now, a few years ago, we worked briefly with a brilliant Ghanaian artist, El Anatsui, who uses materials such as, in this case, discarded whiskey bottle tops to create amazing tapestries painstakingly wired together to create cascading, colourful and sparkling surfaces. They form what El Anatsui calls cloths made by hand on a huge scale to express the overwhelming of African craft traditions by colonial imports. And sometimes these cloths are as big as entire buildings. We wanted to clad our UK Carnival Arts Centre in a cloth like this, but hey, the planners wouldn't let us. But sometimes, though, we are more successful in bringing a bit of exotica into our work. Years ago in China, we saw this unique gate in the wonderful Yuyuan Gardens in Shanghai. It's a kind of daft but also completely beautiful shape. And what's clever about it is that it doesn't need a lintel. So we shamelessly copied it and made an opening in an existing brick wall in a house in London by simply repetitively drilling all around the outline of its shape until it's separated and then pushing the whole loosened brick shape over to form this new door. So I'm going to finish with another famous architect. This is Le Corbusier at the Sarabhai House in Ahmedabad, India. I suspect that this image is the result of his client disguising the fan because Corb's much vaunted passive climate control didn't work in the swelter of an Indian summer. And it makes me ask, what price truth to materials? Thank you.